Welcome to Dreams Inspire Reality Podcast with Tara Darnley, a podcast for creatives looking to turn their dreams into reality with practical strategic steps from everyday people and entrepreneurs who are living their best lives possible. Dreams inspire reality. Turn your dreams into reality. Dreams inspire reality.
Guys, I'm super excited about today's episode. We have the beautiful Gwen Jimmere, and I'm super excited about talking to her today. Gwen Jimmere is a gifted visionary, 100 most influential African Americans in the U.S., along with the likes of Beyonce and LeBron James. And she's definitely someone, if she's not on your radar or you're not aware of who she is, you should be watching and taking notes. So Gwen, thank you so much for coming on.
Of course, you are so kind. It's my pleasure to be on your podcast. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So we're going to jump right into it because so much to uncover. And the first question I always ask is, what is your dream life? Are you living that dream life right now?
Yes and no. So I would say, yes, I'm living it because I think about where I started when I started my company, which was 5.5 years ago now. I was 5.5 years younger, but I had a little boy who at the time was not yet 2, and I had $32 in the bank, and I was broke, and I was on food stamps, and it's a mess. I was going through divorce, and then I look at where we are now. We're in 1,200 Sally beauty stores, and I was just on the airplane to Atlanta 2 weeks ago, and the flight attendant walked by, and she walked by a couple times. She's like, "Are you Gwen Jimmere?" And I was like,
Yes.
"Oh, I'm amazing." And so, yeah. So anyway, so that was kind of cool. And she's like, "I use Naturalicious, and I get the candy from the candy curator, and I swear I love the hair." It was so cool to me. Like, we're becoming, more people are becoming aware of the brand. And so, yes, I'm living my dream life in that sense. Because 5 years ago, when I was in that mess, I would have never expected for anybody to know who the heck I was, let alone, to be in so many stores. On the flip side, I say I'm not yet living my dream life because I just hired some new leadership level people, and my dream is to just be able to just completely just go to Tahiti for like a month and not plug in at all. And so at that point, that will be my next kind of like milestone for like my dream life. So I feel like you always have the opportunity to improve. And so, yeah, I'm very blessed and happy where I am, but there's places I want to get that I'm not yet there yet.
Hey guys, this episode is sponsored by Naturalicious, who is the world's first time-saving natural hair care line for busy women that delivers the results of 12 products in only 3 steps. A 3-step, all-natural, highly effective hair care system that delivers, moisturizes, detangles, and defines curls in a fraction of the time. Available at 1,200 Sally stores nationwide and sold online at SaveTime on WashDay.com.
I love that. And you just said a lot, and we're going to uncover all of those things from, you just like slid over. Yeah, I'm in 1,200 Sally Beauty store. Like, that's not like a major deal. So we're going to go into that. And of course, people are going to recognize you. You're literally out here transforming women's lives. So no, it's like the truth. Like, I'm in your group, and those women, like, I've never seen a set of women go hard for a brand like that. And it's not because of, it's just because of you. It's literally because of you and your commitment to women, especially women of color, and our health. And so let's go back a little bit because, again, you slid over like, oh, yeah, I just started a company with $32. And, a lot of us out here, our listeners, they're stuck at, well, I don't have the money to start my dream business, or I don't know where to start, but you did it with $32 and now you're running a multi-million-dollar brand. So can you just take us a little bit through that? Like, how was that process? What was the mindset at that time versus today?
Yeah, well, they always say if you have a plan B, then sometimes you kind of fall on that plan B. I ain't really had no plan B. And so what happened with me was that I actually had a really, quote unquote, good job, a 6-figure job. I got recruited right out of grad school by Ford Motor Company. My parents are of the generation where if you work for an automaker, that's a good job. And I got recruited. I moved from my home state of Ohio to Michigan for that job. And everything was kosher. Got married, had a baby. Life was great. Decided that this marriage really wasn't what I had signed up for. It got to be kind of abusive. And I was like, I ain't about that life. And I also didn't want my son to think that sort of situation was normal. So it was very important to me to remove myself from that before he became of age to even remember, which is why I left probably more quickly than I would. I probably would try to work it out a little bit if it was just me. But because I had him to think about, I was like, I got to get out of this. So divorced him, and I was the breadwinner of the family. And that forced me to end up having to pay my lawyer bills, his lawyer bills, and all of that. And so my plan was that I was going to, let me back up a little bit. I had already been kind of formulating my own hair products.
Okay.
Right? Just because when I was pregnant with my son, I couldn't find what I was looking for. You got to remember, my son is now 8. And so this was 8 years ago, which doesn't sound like it was that long ago, but in the scheme of the natural hair care industry, it was a lifetime ago, because
it is,
you could not find products readily available. Nowadays, we can just go to Target, we can go to literally any store, Walmart, Wholefoods, Macy's even, and find products dedicated to us with aisles and aisles of that. But 8 years ago, all we really had was Carol's Daughter and Shea Moisture. I mean, there were other brands, but they weren't as well known. And even Shea Moisture was not what it is today. Shea Moisture, you had to go to like the flea market in the hood and try to find it, kind of thing. So I couldn't find what I was looking for. So I created it for myself. So luckily I did have that, and it became such a passion project and such a hobby. I had friends of friends asking to use it, to buy it. And it was not something I ever intended to be a business. I really didn't. It was really just kind of like my getaway from that abusive situation that I was dealing with. But I found myself going through the divorce, which was necessary for me. But in that process, I also got laid off unexpectedly at the same time. So I'm like 30 days removed from my divorce being final. I have now $32 in the bank. I'm thinking in my head, well, I don't have any money. So I will just, when the divorce is over, I'll go back to work. I'll stack my chips up and everything will be good. But they always say, God laughs when we plan. So he laughed real hard and I got laid off and I had $32. And so I'm like, well, what can I do to make money like today? And I think because I didn't have that plan B, it forced me to be really creative and really innovative and efficient with that. So I was like literally at the bottom. There was nowhere else to go. I've got this baby on my hip, $32, and I have to make something happen. So I'm like, well, I don't really want to go hop on a pole. Don't really want to go sell drugs.
Hop on a pole.
So I guess, the only legal and moral thing I could think I could do in that moment, that day, was to turn my hobby into a business. And so that's what I did that day. And I know a lot of people say, you can't start with nothing, but if there's a will, there's a way. Yeah, you can definitely do it. I did it, so.
That's amazing. And not only did you do it with $32, I love the fact that you also went beyond just, I want to create a product, but I want to create something that was not on the market, and I'm going to protect it, because a lot of us entrepreneurs, we do everything else but protect our creativity and our genius. So can you tell us like what inspired you, or how were you aware, like, okay, I need to protect this and I need to make this historic because I want my names in a book? And so how did that shift, from $32? Because again, you ain't had the funds to say, let me pay some big time lawyer to do this. So how did that come about?
So I think it's important to understand that I grew my business very organically, right? So I had the $32. here in the city of Detroit, where I live, we have, like most cities do, we have a farmer's market, right? And so I would go to that market. It's called Eastern Market. I would go there and I would sell my products. I would basically use my $32, buy materials from like literally like the local Joann Fabrics or Michael's, wherever I could find cheap bottles, put them in there, put some sort of rinky-dink label on it, and I would go sell it at the farmer's market. And whatever money I made, I would buy more materials with that money, and then I'll pay the rest with I'll pay my bills with the rest. That doesn't mean that my bills weren't late. They were, but they weren't late, right? But my point in saying that is that like it was very gradual. You know, like when I went out there the first day, I wasn't making, you know, even $1,000 a day, right? But whatever I did make, I used that to put back into the business and then pay the bills. And then the next weekend I would go back and I would do the same thing. I would make a little bit more. And then I got smart and I realized that people really like cute babies. So I would take my son and I would like use the products on his hair and he would coo and all that stuff. They'd be like, oh my God, he's so cute. And I would pimp him out and use him.
I mean, it's all going back to him.
Yeah, you know, and so that's what I would do. And so it wasn't like, you know, all of a sudden I went to the farmer's market and everybody was like, oh my God, and I was a millionaire. It wasn't that. That wasn't the case. So when it came to the patents, I still really didn't have any money. So to your point, hiring a patent attorney can cost upwards of $20,000, which is a lot of money, especially if you don't have it. It's also a lot of money when you realize that the lawyer can file for the patent, and if you don't get the patent, you're out of $20,000.
Yes.
Like, it's not like you get a refund or, you know, if you lose, we don't get paid kind of thing. Like that doesn't happen. And so I was like, I don't have that money to lose. Now, it was really my mother who was the one who encouraged me to do it. I really honestly didn't think I could get a patent on a hair care product. So I really got to give all kudos to my mom, and she definitely takes her credit whenever she can. But she just was kind of on me all the time about, Gwen, you should try to protect this. And it meant a lot to me for her to say that, because my mother is not one of those mothers that just cosigns because I'm her daughter. Like, she is very quick and brutally honest to tell you, like, this sucks, right? So when she used my product and she like genuinely loved it, I knew it was legit. And she was like, you need to go and try and patent this. And I was like, Mom, I can't patent a hair product. Like, who does that, you know? And she, every time we would talk, and we talk almost every day, she would say, Gwen, have you looked into the patenting? So to be clear, the only reason I even started researching it was to shut her up. Just to be honest.
Yes, Mama. Yes, Mama. Mama knows right.
That's really the only reason. Because I was like, oh my gosh, if she don't shut up about this patent stuff, let me just look it up so I can prove to her that you can't get a patent on her product. And lo and behold, I actually did the research and like, wow, I actually can get a patent. And her thing was, she kind of put this thought into my mind. She was like, one day, and maybe a year from now, and maybe 5 years from now, and maybe 10 years from now, if you don't protect this, you're going to be sitting at home, flipping through channels, and you're going to see somebody like L'Oreal or somebody with your product, and you can't do anything about it because you didn't take the time to try and patent it. And I just had that visual of how angry I would have been. So I was like, let me go ahead and try. So that's really where it started. I did not know that I was going to be the first Black woman to have a patent on natural hair care product. That really wasn't even my objective in the beginning. But once I found out that I could patent it, it was more or less just like, let me protect this before somebody else tries to take it. And then once I actually did get the patent, which was it was almost a 2-year process. So I had to go learn patent law. Like, I literally had to go to the library, go to the local USPTO satellite office, which we have one in the city of Detroit. And I was there like clockwork. Like, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, my son would be at daycare. I would be at the library, and they, you know, if I wasn't there, they'll be like, where were you on Friday? Because they were still used to seeing me there. And I taught myself patent law. I learned what the history of it was, what was on the books when Obama was in office, what was on the books to potentially change. And once I felt comfortable enough, then I went ahead and applied. So that whole process from starting to applying was probably about over a year, maybe like 13 months. And then I applied, and that took another like 8 or 9 months. Wow. Almost a year to get. So a whole almost 2-year process to actually get approved. And then I actually got a call from, they have a USPTO like historian like office. And that's when they called me and was like, do you know that you're like the first one to do this? And I'm like, really? It struck me as crazy, because I'm like, the same thing everybody thinks. Madam C.J. Walker didn't have a patent. And it's not that she didn't have a patent. She didn't have a patent on a natural hair care product. She had one on a tool, but not like an actual product that we use in our hair, like shampoo and stuff like that.
That's just giving me chills, like you going down in history.
It's been really cool. Like every Black History Month now, I get invited to speak at all these places, and I've been in a number of like Black history books. It's been really cool. But the thing is, even though I'm the first one to do it, I don't at all aspire to be the only person. Like I really hope that what I've done and my achievement blazes a trail of inspiration for other women to realize like, hey, this can be a cornerstone for us for wealth building, for generational wealth. Like you said, to your point, protecting our inventions.
I love that. And I love that, like you said, it should inspire our listeners and, anyone, especially within that industry, or even with, beyond that industry, just try to be a part of history. Like I always say, like we talk so often about leaving a legacy, but I know when I got my first patent certification, it just felt like, wow, like I could legit pass this down to my kids. And it has their last name on it. So it's like they are a part of history forever. And Absolutely. So I love that you said that. So did you run your mom a check? Like, cause
Mama, I did not run her a check for that, but she gets paid.
I'm kidding.
And on a regular basis, and she gets lifetime free hair products. So yeah,
yes, Mama. Thank you, Mama. Thank you, Mama.
One of my biggest joys was last year. I actually bought my parents a car, and I was just like,
I love it.
Because they really needed it, but also like I went to the store. I went to the car dealership and I paid cash for the car, and I drove it to their house, and they were just like in tears, and it just was like, y'all have done so much and sacrificed so much for me. It was just like the best feeling ever.
Just chills. Because again, when it goes back to legacy, you're not affecting just, our future, our kids, but just giving back to those who paved the way for us. And, for our parents, they sacrificed so much, even if it doesn't have anything to do with entrepreneurship, like they provided for us, they fed us, they got us this far. So Absolutely. I love that.
As we celebrate Black History Month, we're happy to have this entire month's podcast episodes be sponsored by Naturalicious, who's the world's first time-saving natural hair care line for busy women that delivers the results of 12 products in only 3 steps. A 3-step, all-natural, highly effective hair care system that delivers moisturize, detangle, and define curls in a fraction of the time. Available today at over 1,200 Sally stores nationwide and sold online at savetimeonwashday.com. Made for women with natural hair by women with natural hair. In fact, the founder, Gwen Jimmere, is the first African-American woman to hold a patent on a natural hair care product, proven to save up to 80% of time on wash day. I've personally used Naturalicious products for my daughter, and we both love the results it's given her hair. It's available today at over 1,200 Sally stores nationwide and sold online at savetimeonwashday.com. So if you're looking for a product that reduces the time you spend on your hair care, this is the product for you. So be sure to head on over to savetimeonwashday.com or your local Sally beauty store.
So in terms of you getting into all these stores, because we just like, so I'm in 1,200 stores. Like, how did that start? Like, what made you want to go into retail? Did retail reach out to you? Like, how did that happen? And tell us some behind the scenes. How has that been going? Because I think a lot of our listeners, they hear 1,200 stores and all they hear is, cha-ching, ching, we're rich, yay, let's go. But can you give me some truth behind it?
Sure, I would be happy to. Well, I will say a little bit of backstory is that when I was in my initial phase, starting the business with the $32 single mother deal, there was a Wholefoods store that was opening in the city of Detroit, which was a big deal at the time because at the time, this was 5.5 years ago, there were no Wholefoods in urban areas. They were all in like suburban areas. So this was like national news. It was a big deal. And Whole Foods was actually our first retail account. So it was just one store, but they were opening the store. I went down there and I asked for the buyer. This is something that a lot of your listeners should know, because a lot of people, when they find out that, I'm in retail, they always want to know, well, how do I get in retail? And I always share this story because it's like, I didn't have any connections. I didn't know anybody. I literally went to the store and asked for the buyer, and I pitched the buyer. That's all I did. I didn't know anybody in high places, nothing. So a lot of stores, Whole Foods, Walmart, Target, a lot of these places, they have programs, opportunities for local businesses to get into their stores on the store level. Now, you may not get a purchase order for 500, 1,200, 2,000 stores. If you put your foot in the door, if you can prove that you're selling well in that store. And so that was really great for me, because I got into that one store. When you go into Whole Foods, you already know what the price point is going to be. You already know what the type of quality you should expect. And so for me, being at Whole Foods really validated my brand to people. It was no longer like, oh, this little girl with this little hair care product. It was like, oh, snap, like she's at Whole Foods. It was one store, but I milked that joint like it was every Whole Foods in the country.
In the world.
But it validated the brands to people, and then we did one at that store, and then we, moved on to other stores. So Whole Foods was really my first retail store. Now, a lot of people do think that once you get into retail, automatically, like you said, it's just dollars, you just rain in money. And that's not always the case, right? So with Sally, I actually was lucky enough to have a chance meeting with a rep group. We just happened to be in the same place at the same time at like one of the beauty shows. And they weren't even trying to talk to me. It just so happened that I saw them a lot at a lot of different shows, and I kept seeing these same two people. And I realized they were from a certain brokerage, we can call them, essentially rep group. And I said, to the one girl, she was a black girl and an Asian guy. And me and the black girl got really cool over the course of these shows that we would go to. And I was like, you know what? You should check out Naturalicious. Like, you should consider us, And she was like, well, next time I see you, which will probably be like next weekend, bring me some material. So I brought it. And because we had formed this relationship over the course of a few weeks, she was really kind of advocating for us. Okay. And so she took us back to her boss, who, he was just like, yeah, let's do it. And so they then took me to Sally. That's how I got into Sally. But it was really forming that relationship with the brokerage. Now, you don't always have to have a brokerage. If you do have a brokerage, you have to pay them a fee, essentially a finder's fee for connecting you. And that's like an ongoing fee. It's not like a one-time thing. So it's an ongoing thing. So every time you get a PO, a purchase order from that store, you have to kick back whatever percentage you've agreed upon with the brokerage, because they made that initial contact for you.
Got it.
You still got to do all the work. They just getting a percentage.
A finder's fee.
Basically. But a benefit of having a brokerage, if you can get one, a good one, is that if they do what they're supposed to do, they really do go to bat for you when the retailers come at you and they want, they have ridiculous requests. So like, for instance, sometimes they will say, we're going to send you a PO, and it's, let's say it's a $200,000 PO. We need you to fill it in like a week. What?
No.
And so the rep group will then go back like, this is ridiculous. Like, no, we're going to give them 3 weeks or a month or whatever. So the rep group does that. Now, I will say, getting into when you get with the rep group, they take you to the meeting. It's still on you to close that deal, right? Like, just because they take you there doesn't mean that you're going to get the deal. So just because you have a rep group, I don't want people to think that automatically means that you're going to get into all these retailers. You still have to do pretty much all the work. So you still have to fly to the headquarters. You still have to pitch the person. They just happen to be in the room, but you still have to pitch the buyer. So I went to the retailer, to the Sally meeting, and I knew that the buyers didn't really know who I was. We didn't have a whole lot of brand awareness in comparison to some of the other brands that they carry at the time. But I figured I had a really strong tribe in my Naturalicious nation at the time. And it's even stronger now, but at that time it was still strong. And so what I did, and this is a really good tip for anybody who's listening, is when you go to a meeting, you always have to take into account what's in it for them, right? So a lot of times people go to these meetings with retailers and they just go in on their story. Here's why I started this product and it does these great things and all these people love it. That's great, but how are you going to move product off of their shelf?
Yeah.
Do you have any social proof to prove that people are actively looking for you in the stores? Because that's really what matters.
Yeah.
People are used to buying you online. How are you going to drive those people to the store to buy and convert them into in-store buyers instead of online buyers?
Yeah.
And so I was able to show literally screenshots of people who were actively looking for Naturalicious in stores, like literally screenshots of people saying, we're on social media, where can I find Step One or the hair mist or whatever in my store? I live in Baltimore, where can I find it near me? I live in Texas, where can I find it near me? And I just had this plethora of screenshots, and I took that in there, like, look, y'all are missing out on money, because people, and that's what they need to know. They need to know they're missing out on money, right? I'm like, you're missing out on money. People are looking for our stuff in stores. Y'all could be getting all this money, but you're not. And so that's really how I presented it, and we got the deal.
Yeah.
Retail would normally put you into about, between 40 and 80 stores, depending on the retailer. This is a good thing for you, because what happens if you don't sell well, you have to buy back everything that they purchase from you.
Can you say that a little bit louder for the folks in the back?
Yes. You do not want to go into a new retailer going national out the gate, because if you do not sell, and you really don't have a way of knowing if you're going to sell until you're in there, if you don't sell well, or whatever they consider to be well, because every store has their own benchmarks, if you don't sell well or meet their benchmarks, you have to purchase back everything they purchased from you. So imagine this. Imagine that they placed let's say you went to national distribution and you got like a $300,000 order, right? So you like, man, I'm balling, $300,000 out the gate, whoop, 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 right? So now you have to fill that order first, right? So that may cost you, let's say on the low end, maybe it costs you $80,000 to fill that order, right? So you have to first fund that from somewhere. Maybe you have it in the bank, maybe you have a rich uncle, maybe you have a loan, who knows, right? So you figure out a way to fund that purchase order. That's $80,000 off top that you got to pay back to somebody from that $300K. Then you're probably going, if you're in all these stores, you're going to have to level up your marketing plan. You're going to have to level up on your operations. There's no way you can keep operating at a high level like that the same way that you do on a small level. So now you got to hire some more people. You may have to get a manufacturer. You've got all these other people to pay. So you finally get paid, and you have to front all this for like at least 30 days on a good deal, or like 60 days, sometimes even 90 days. So you gotta eat ramen noodle and rocks for like 2 months to like 4 months, right? Until you finally get a check. When you get that check, you got $300,000. You got to pay back all these things. You got to pay back the manufacturer. You got to pay back the marketing team. All these people who are waiting for their check. Maybe you have, let's say you did well and you have $100,000 left over, right? But you don't sell well, and so now you're living on your $100K until you get another order. Well, let's say 6 months go by and you pretty much blown through that $100K because you got to put more money into your business, but you don't sell well. And now you got to buy all that stuff back. Where you going to get the $300K from?
Lord.
Right. You got to take out a loan to buy your stuff back. Now you're back in the hole. So it is to your benefit to go into a smaller number of stores out the gate. And a lot of people, they're like, oh, they don't value me. They don't want to put me in national distribution. It is to your benefit. Trust me. It's a lot better to buy back stuff from 80 stores than it is to buy back buy back product from like 300 stores.
Luckily for you, and I'll say this because I'm in your community, is your tribe don't play. Your tribe don't play. And I think that's important to even acknowledge why you're successful is because you've built a tribe over a number of years that's loyal to you, that wants to see you succeed, and they will go to bat for you. And I've seen it, and I think that's why that won't have to be this issue and it's not even an issue, but the reality of it that we're talking about, you won't have to deal with because you've built that tribe and they want to go in stores. They want to support you. It's convenient for them. So can you touch a little bit, how did you cultivate that culture within your company where people like, know, and trust you? Because everyone aspires to have customers that like, know, and trust them.
Sure. Well, prior to me starting the company, like I said, I used to work for Ford. And so I was actually in charge of digital media and digital marketing for the company. So I got a really great kind of like on the job training on how to utilize social media to build a community of people. I started working at Ford right around the downturn of the auto industry, and Ford was being lumped in the media, being lumped in the big three. And Ford was really, really adamant about making sure that people knew that Ford did not take the buyout, right? Chrysler and GM, they took the buyout, but Ford was different. Don't lump us together. And so this was before brands were utilizing social media to connect with people. At this time, social media was a peer-to-peer sort of thing. It was not B2C. And so we were really the first company to utilize social media in that way for corporate communications. And so taking that training that I had into my business was really how I learned to build my tribe. So it was really like, okay, we already know that this is really low. I saw the statistics the other day. 60% of people do not trust brands. I actually believe it's a higher percentage than 60%. So we know that people don't trust brands. They trust people like them first. They trust third-party experts, and they trust people they admire, right? So for example, if you, Tara, tell me that I should go try some new restaurant in your city, I'm more likely to believe you and try it because of your recommendation than I am the brand that, you know, the restaurant itself. Similarly, when it comes to third-party experts, Dr. Oz says that Garcinia Cambogia will make you lose 45 pounds in 10 hours, you know, and everybody goes and they get Garcinia Cambogia. It's sold out everywhere because people trust him. And then the third pillar is people who we admire. So that's why you see so many celebrity endorsements, Michael Jordan, Shaq. I think Shaq will endorse literally anything. He don't even care. He'll endorse a trash can. If Shaq can get a check, Shaq is on it, you know. But Oprah, for example, if Oprah says this book is the bomb, it's sold out, right? Yes. And so people trust those three pillars of people. And so I realized pretty quickly that trying to sell people on, hey, I'm a brand, you should try my products, look at this before and after, is not going to have the same effect as me becoming one of them. And so I tried my best to be that girlfriend. I talk to them just like I talk to my friends. I used to say in colloquialisms, yes, girl, you know, hand grabbing the air, all that kind of stuff. You know, I do the same sort of thing as I would with my friends, and they start to like me as a person. There's a lot of people who come into the group who have never even used the products, but because they get interested in me and what I'm talking about, then they're like, oh, I like her, I'm gonna try her stuff. And it's not just about relating to them on a like personal level, it's also about providing thought leadership. Yes. So if you've never heard of Naturalicious and you've never tried Naturalicious, but you get in there and you feel like I'm someone who you can relate to, I'm not talking over your head with a bunch of like industry terms, you know, I'm making things very easily digestible for you. And I sound like I actually know what I'm talking about when it comes to hair care, you're more likely to trust me. And so that's really how I've just been consistent with that over the course of the years.
Her tribe is like goals, right? It's total goals. And you could tell why, because if you know Gwen in real life, if you know Gwen just on social, she's giving, she's kind, she's always sharing knowledge. It's not just like, buy my product, stick it in your face, buy my product. She's really always educating us. So I think that's a great part of like, you know, her success and her tribe really clinging to her and her every words that come because they know she wants the best for them. So maybe y'all should, that's a great tip, guys. Make sure y'all doing that, not just sell, educate as well. So
you provide value for sure.
Value, exactly. Not just, and you're producing something of quality, so it shouldn't be hard to educate people on what exactly you're selling. What can we expect for Naturalicious in 2019?
Well, we just expanded to like the 1,200 stores. So we were in test for 80 stores. We did really well there. Like you said, the tribe showed out. So much so that they expanded us. We were supposed to expand from 80 to 500. And then from 500 to 800, and it was kind of incrementally supposed to grow, but we went straight from 80 to 1,200 pretty quickly. Actually, we went from 80 to 600 And then a month later, they were like, let's just do 1,200. So we still have some room to grow because Sally actually has 2,700 stores that we can be in. So,
and this was in how much, what time period? Just how many months?
So we started in May in Sally, and then in September we found out that we were going to be expanding to the 600 stores. And then they placed that order. They placed that order in November. We filled it in December, and then in December, like a few weeks later, they were like, "Let's just do 1,200."
Yeah.
So less than a year, we went to 15 times more stores.
Love it.
I do need to let people know this though, because again, people
spill it.
You're in retail, you get all this money. Yes, you do. The POs are very nice. Don't get me wrong. However, when you go to national distribution with most retailers, you got to understand retailers are not in the business of losing money. They're in the business of making money. Yes. So when you see, a brand or, a category of products in a store that are like 30% off, 50% off, all that kind of stuff, those brands are paying the store back that amount. So it's not like if you go into retail and they want you to all of a sudden do, a monthly promo at 30% off, 60% off, 40%, all that kind of stuff. We're going to have to pay that back. And they're not even going to wait for you to write a check. They're just going to take it off of your next PO.
Yes. So
again, another reason why it's really important to build your tribe is because if you already have people going to the store, you don't have to do all that discount. Mm-hmm. Because you want your PO to be your PO. You don't want to have to you got to remember, they're already going to be getting like 40% to 50% off retail. And then on top of that, you got to give them another 40% off for this promo. So build your tribe beforehand. So that way you can kind of dictate when you want to participate in these promos. It's a nice thing to participate every now and then just to show good faith. But, some of them, their strategy is to basically get you to discount a lot because it saves them money. And you have to remember, you as a brand, especially as a small brand, not only are you getting this money back, but you got employees to pay, you got a life to live, you have kids, you have overhead, you have all kinds of stuff. So build your tribe ahead of time. All goes well, we will be in the remaining 2,700 stores by the end of 2019. It looks like things are going well. We've been selling really well so far. So that will happen. We're in talks right now with another major retailer. So fingers crossed that happens. I think it will. And so that's really exciting. But it's also really important for us to make sure that we are not reliant upon retail, because you always want to have options. Like I always say, it's just like not necessarily a bad relationship, but you don't want to ever be that person that's stuck in a relationship and can't leave because all your money is tied up in this person. Similar with retail. You don't want all your entire livelihood and the functioning of your business to be tied up in retail. What if your product stops selling all of a sudden? What if they try to play you and have you do all kind of stuff you don't want to do anymore? You're just like, I'm over it. You still need to make sure that your retail operations for your own website, and if you have a brick and mortar or whatever, are still really solid, so that if you need to pull out, you can pull out.
The pros and the cons of going into retails, because we often hear about the pros. And so it makes it kind of like you put this unrealistic thing out there for small businesses to try and aspire to, when someone like you will come and tell them the truth. Like, hey, this is working for me because X, Y, and Z, but do you have these things in place before you make that leap? And I've said that a lot, but I guess people are like, well, I don't know what you did, so I ain't going to.
I mean, one of my favorite makeup brands was in Sephora. They got into Sephora and they went out of business because they couldn't. I think Sephora had like a 120-day net 120 for them, so they had to live for 4 months. And then on top of that, like all the discount, they just couldn't keep it up, and they actually went out of business after going into retail. So yeah, you got to be really strategic about it.
And especially now, like, even for us, for everyone thinking about recession and all those things, you have to think now you're driving, like you said before, you have to drive sales to the store. Does your customer have the money to go in store and all these things, versus you just, offering to them on your website, and then you could offer them a sale here and there. But just guys, I hope you're really taking notes, because this is from someone who's doing it, and she's being very transparent with you and her journey. and just take notes and, make sure if you're offered or if retail is your goal, that you know the pros and the cons and you prepare yourself, because it's a lot of work and it literally can make or break your brand. Clearly she has done, Gwen has done the work where she's prepared for this and her tribe is prepared for this and they're rallying behind her. They play no games. So build you a tribe like that, tribe goals, and you'll be fine. So any last advice that you have for our entrepreneurs before we go into our fun Q&A round?
I could talk about business all day, but I think since we're on the topic of retail, the biggest thing I would say is when you go into retail, and we're going to assume that you're successful in your test phase and you end up going into national distribution, again, you're going to have to level up in like every aspect. And it is better for you to have that level up in place before you need it than it is if you're trying to play catch up. So we found that while we were in the test market, we were able to continue to make our own products in-house ourselves with our very small team. And once they came talking about they wanted 1,200 stores and they wanted that, PL, I mean, literally it was like 4,000 units or something. Like there's no way we could produce that in the period of time that they wanted to. We had to find a third-party manufacturer who could make our products to our specifications with the same exact quality and all that. And that itself took almost a 2-year process to find the right manufacturer. But luckily I had already been working on that beforehand. It just so happened that it kind of all the stars aligned in such a way that when that 1,200 store PO came through, we already had everything was ready to go. But it took me a year alone just to find the right manufacturer. Right. So this is me testing different manufacturers, sending them the stuff, having them send it back, going back and forth until we found the right company. And when we did find the right company, it took another year of going back and forth with formulas for them to get it right, for them to get it right to how I wanted it to be. So that was 2 years. So what I'm saying is that if you're planning to do that and you have bigger visions for your company, you definitely want to have all these things in place beforehand. You do not want to get a PO for a whole lot of stores and then you have to tell the retailer, I can't fill it. Or you have to tell them like, I can fill it, but you got to wait an extra 2 months. That's not a good look. So prepare yourself. If you have, the big vision, start working on stuff now. You're also going to need more than likely to level up and create layers between yourself and your staff. So what I found was that I had 11 or 12 people reporting to me. And it forced me to be the bottleneck because I just couldn't get it all done and run the business. So when this huge PO started, we found out we were going to get it. I had to find an operations manager who could basically handle the day-to-day operations of the business. And I wasn't the bottleneck anymore. I had to find a brand manager. I had to replace my finance team. So all these different things, I had to create a layer of organizational structure so that I was able to manage not just the filling of the order, but the growth of the company afterwards. So just start thinking about all those things well in advance of when you blow up.
Boss. Boss. And when I do have another question before we go into the front round. I remember last year you were like, well, I'm going to fire myself. That's the goal, to fire myself from my company. Mm-hmm. How has that process been?
So firing yourself it evolves, right? Because there was a time where I actually had fired myself, right? And it was great. And I was kind of bored. I'm like everything's taken care of, but then we started to grow and we got into Sally. And then it was all of a sudden I was back in it, so, and then I was in it for a while and then I fired myself again and I had delegated everything out and people were able to do it on their own. I went to Greece, lost my laptop in Greece. Wow. And didn't have a way to communicate with my team through email other than phone. And I was like, don't text me. So, but miraculously, they figured everything out without me. I got back into town. Immediately, they started relying on me again. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of gone through this thing of firing myself, having to get back in it, firing myself, having to get back in it. Now I have I've created those layers I just talked about, so I have kind of like a management level that it's like me and then the management level, and then everybody else reports to those 3 people. So instead of 12 people reporting to me, those 12 people report to them, and those 3 people report to me, which makes life a lot easier. So yeah, firing myself is going good, but right now I haven't completely fired myself, but I'm definitely less in the weeds than I used to be. I was just thinking about this the other day, Tara. I was thinking like, there's so much stuff that I don't do anymore that I have delegated out, but I work just as many hours, which is interesting, right? Because it's like, how much, this is crazy because it's like, all these things that I'm doing now are things I had to get done, but they're very visionary, big picture stuff. And it's like, all this stuff could not get done before because I was in the weeds. This is still really important stuff. But when you fire yourself, at least from those that, what I call being in the weeds of the business, it allows you to kind of have that kind of eagle eye view of what's happening. So in a sense, I fired myself from the weeds, but I'm still like, again, my objective is to go to Tahiti for a month and not have to plug it. When I get there, then I'll be golden.
I think what it is new levels, new goals. And so what your goals were last year, it's now like, wait, this could go bigger. Like now I can build $1 billion business. So what can I put in place? So I love that. And I know our listeners are going to want to know, in terms of the team, how did you know who to hire and what roles they would play? Like, what are the first 5 top people you hired to really take you to the next level? Because I know they're going to be messaging us like, okay, how did she structure her team? Like, how did she know who to hire to take her to the next level? What should we have in place?
Yep. Well, I love Sarah Blakely, who is the founder of Spanx. She's like my mentor in my head. I've met her a couple of times, and I haven't gotten her to be my mentor yet, but I'm going to get it. But she always says that she's really good at certain things and she's not good at other things. And so she, even if it's stuff that she can do, but she doesn't like to do, she hired initially for the things she hated the most. So for me, it was really fun making the products when I was just kind of like making them for like me and my friends. But then it got to a point where it was taking up my entire day, and it got old real fast. At least the physical making of the product, not coming up with the product ideas, but making it and mixing it. So that was the first thing I hired was for a team of people to do that. And obviously, like I said, now I've kind of outsourced a lot of that to a third-party manufacturer, so I've had to level that up. But in terms of like management, the first person I hired was the operations manager, as far as a management level sort of thing. And can I swear on here? Is that okay? Is swearing allowed or no?
You're good.
Okay.
You're good.
So my one friend, I just want to make sure, my friend who owns a hair salon, actually a chain of hair salons, we were talking about hiring. And I was like, I need to hire an operations manager. I've literally had like 150 applicants. I don't know how to go through all these people. I don't know what I should, pick. And she's like, listen, Gwen. She's like, if it's not, when you're interviewing somebody, if it's not a hell yes, it's a fuck no. Period. She was like, it should not be like, I'm kind of like it. No, she's like, no. If you're not raving and super excited about this person joining your team and you cannot wait for their start date, that person's a fuck no. They gotta go. And she was like,
advice.
Yes, it was such good advice, because when I actually went through the interviews, I ended up interviewing 10 people. And only one of them was a Black female. And she was the best one. She was the one that was like, hell yes, like, you have everything I want. And it wasn't just because she was Black and female. She literally had all the answers to every scenario I gave her. It was like the right answer, exactly what I would do. And I felt she had like the empathy and compassion to really, be a part of our team. Not just that, some of the people had a lot of skill, but they didn't really have a culture fit. And that was really important for me as well. So I guess my advice to everybody is, when you start hiring, especially those management level people, they're literally my operations manager is a clone of me, essentially, right? She is the person who's in the office every day. I'm not always in the office. She's in the office every day. She's got to relate to the team. She's got to help us to, create an even better culture. She's got her eyes and ears everywhere. She's talking to the manufacturer, make sure our shipments get to Sally on time. So she has to be able to communicate with people when they aren't doing what they're supposed to do in an effective way that's still nice, but stern and effective enough to get it done. You know, when I go away on my month-long trip to Tahiti, right? She's got to be the person who is the go-to for everything, for customer service, for, you know, my customer service team now reports to her. My warehouse team, my shipping team, everybody now reports to her. And then she comes to me if she needs something. So it's really important that, you know, you're basically getting in bed with this person. This person has to be your eyes and ears everywhere. And if it's not a hell yes, it's a fuck no. Same thing with my brand manager. It was like, she's got to be, you know, she's got to be good people, but she also has to be stern enough to say no to certain people. And it's just an interviewing process. It's a numbers game, and it took me a while. Do not rush this process.
Yes.
Do not get desperate. Do not just hire anybody, because again, your management level is your eyes and ears. So my advice, if it's not hell yes, it's a fuck no, and take your time.
Yes. I love it. This was so great. This was amazing. And I definitely want to follow up with you by the end of the year to check in and see what's going on. Because I know a lot of people are going to enjoy this, and there's a lot to take away. We're going to go into the fun round. Hopefully no content. Who's your favorite entrepreneur? You got 5 seconds to answer, by the way. Okay. Favorite entrepreneur.
Okay. Sarah Blakely.
Latest business win. I think we talk about that.
Oh, latest business win. Oh, yeah. Get into the 1,200 Sally stores.
Favorite business tool.
Favorite business tool? Slack.
Last book you read.
Clockwork. Actually, by Michael Kelly.
Clockwork. And we got to meet him. Weirdest invention you've ever seen?
Weirdest invention. 5 seconds. Probably some sort of crazy weird sex toy at one of my friends' like parties. She like sells that bedroom candy stuff.
Last movie you watched.
What was it? Last movie I watched?
Last movie you watched.
I think it was John Q. I just watched it again like recently.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh, this is a good one. When I was a little girl, I wanted to be a singer and a dancer, and I had it all mapped out. I was going to start on my career by being a backup singer for Whitney and a backup dancer for Janet. And I was going to do both at the same time until I was able to take my skills, all I had learned, and take it to Arista Records and convince Clive Davis to give me a record deal. That was my plan.
This is why she's successful. She had all of that planned out.
I was like 6 years old.
The last good deed someone did for you. The last good deed that was done for you.
I'm going to say the last good deed someone did for me. Probably my boyfriend. He does like a lot for me, like every day. Like even just let me sleep in. And like just, he's my son's stepdad, and so he's a phenomenal father. Like like a dream dad, to be honest. Outside of my dad. My dad's the best, but he's like the second best dad. And something he did today, like he does it every day. Like every day is Valentine's Day, so I'm sure he did something today that was just off the chain. I think today my son had a half day. That's what it was. My son had a half day of school today, and I really had a meeting, and Mike had a meeting as well, and he had to go to work. So he actually he picked up my son for me at school, and took him to work with him. And then they had like this really cool day because he had to have like, take your kid to work day.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And what is the best advice for our listeners to be successful entrepreneurs? What would you say? What would be your best advice to our listeners?
My best advice, and this advice I give everybody, if you've ever heard me speak anywhere, you probably heard this before, but waiting is not a wealth strategy. That is my best advice. Don't wait until the right opportunity, because the right opportunity rarely ever comes. When whatever it is that you're waiting to happens, there's usually some other hurdle that you have to overcome. And then that way you're just waiting forever. So just Get it done. I started with $32. I don't, and a single mother. You cannot say you cannot do it. It can be done. And just start with where you are, work with what you've got. What you have right now is far more than enough. And remember, what God has for you is for you when it's for you, no matter what's happening in your life.
Amen. Amen. This was awesome. I'm glad we were able to do this. And again, I can't wait to have you back on, because I know by 2019, you're going to blow us away again, because you're going to be like, oh, yes, so what happened was. So I'm excited. I'm excited for you. Congratulations on every single thing. I know this is just the beginning, like more is to come. And I'm just excited to be in your presence, to see it unfold. And I know you inspire a lot of people. So continue to be a boss, like a real boss.
I take all my cues from you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You know what? Black girl magic.
Black girl magic. Yes, dream big. I see your shirt.
Yes. So until next time, guys, dream big, execute hard. Bye.
Bye.
Dreams and smiles.